As the administrative head of the municipality and primary support to council, you will be constantly honing your skills around document preparation and design and organizing meeting materials. This will come very naturally to some, but may not be so natural to others. In this video, we're going to cover a number of best practices related to agenda design, meeting package preparation, and minute taking that you can adopt quite easily with a little bit of thought and practice.
We will start with the preparation of the regular council meeting agenda. The Municipal Government Act is actually silent on the agenda itself. However, it is the CAO's role to provide council with the agenda and supporting documents for the agenda items before each council meeting. And you may have some detail in your procedural bylaw about what the agenda should look like, how the items should be presented, and what sort of time frames are required for preparing and circulating the agenda in advance of a meeting. So you'll have a period of time where the agenda is prepared, but council members can still bring agenda items forward to be included in advance of the actual meeting. The agenda should be made available to the public in advance of the meeting, and this is good, open, transparent government practice. During the meeting, the agenda will be approved at the beginning of the meeting, and there's an opportunity then to have council members request additions or changes to the agenda before the meeting begins. In the model procedural bylaw provided by Municipal Affairs, there is a sample order of business that has a list of business typically included in a regular council meeting and an order for those agenda items. Here we have an agenda template, and it's up to you and your municipal council as to how you want to structure your agenda in terms of the actual layout and also for the order of business. But this can be used as a template if you are looking for a resource. And this style of agenda includes all the agenda items, but it also has columns for direction and responsibility. And this is a good way to keep council and CAO on the same page about what each agenda item is going to require in terms of a decision. And it also sets out who is responsible to lead the discussion of that particular agenda item. In terms of regular council meeting typical agenda items, you have your call to order, so that is the responsibility of the mayor, an opportunity for council members to declare any conflict of interest that might arise based on the agenda items set out, the approval of the agenda, the adoption of the minutes from the previous council meeting, and then a whole host of other agenda items that form a typical council meeting, including correspondence from the community, reports from committees, and that would typically be led by the committee chair. And it may be for information or information and approval. There may be a report from the chief administrative officer, recommendations from the planning board, an opportunity to introduce new business or for council members to make inquiries for specific information. If you are in the process of bylaw adoption, there will be time to introduce and read the bylaws. And there may also be public presentations to council, and typically those will be either at the beginning or the end of a council meeting. And finally, having that agenda item to adjourn the meeting is often included on the agenda. As the CAO, you will be doing a number of things to prepare council for the decisions to be made at those regular or special council meetings. And your role includes first identifying what the decision might be that needs to be made and pulling out any policies or bylaws or previous council resolutions that affect the decision being made by council. Also, gathering all relevant information will be part of your job. So that could mean if it's in respect of a purchase, that you'll be gathering quotes and information about the proposed purchase to present to council. You might be identifying options and alternatives with respect to the specific decision that council is making, and also evaluating the options with respect to the criteria. And the criteria, again, may be policies, bylaws, or resolutions, or Municipal Government Act and regulations may also be the criteria against which you are evaluating your options. And examining the benefits and risks of the preferred choice and considering any requirements around implementation of the actual decision. So council will often ask the CAO to prepare a memo or an outline of all of these issues. So what information is at play? What are the options and alternatives? What are the pros and cons of the choices that are presented? And that is a way for council to use the CAO as a support in their decision-making process. So this is an example of that form council may want the CAO to prepare and use for council decisions and council meetings. And in this example, from the town of Kensington, the CAO has prepared a request for decision with a date, the topic, a proposal of the situation and decision that's being requested. In this case, there were not benefits or disadvantages to be considered. There were some options presented. The cost and required resources were laid out for council, along with a source of funding, and finally a recommendation that even included sample language for the resolution of council was provided at the bottom. So this is a template that is available to you, and as CAO you may adopt this template, or you might edit it to suit your own preference, but having all this information summarized, thought out, and presented to council will not only make council's job easier, but it will also result in better decisions and more transparent decisions. There are a few really practical tips that you can take for preparing council meeting packages. So one thing you will want to do in advance of every council meeting is to draft an agenda and have a working draft that can be added to in the days or week preceding the council meeting. And you'll be asking for input on the agenda from the mayor and council members, and adding to it as you receive new agenda items. You'll want to set a deadline for receiving agenda materials so that you have sufficient time to prepare those materials and get them sent out to council. You'll be collecting all the background material related to each agenda item and organizing it appropriately. And for decisions that have a fair amount of background information, you might be preparing a summary report or that request for decision that we just looked at. And this is a way to pull out some high-level important information for council to read, and then attaching the more detailed information to that summary report or request for decision. And of course, council will still need to read all the detailed information, but it's very helpful to have that summary at the beginning. And finally, you'll be organizing and combining all the meeting material either into one PDF or a print package that you provide a few days or several days in advance of the meeting. Council may wish to receive their meeting package by email, or some may want you to print it out for them and leave it in the council office so they can pick it up. Let's talk about meeting minutes. It is the CAO's responsibility to ensure that all minutes of council and council committee meetings are recorded, and the minutes must include the following information: the date of the meeting, the names of those present, the subject matter of the issues discussed, and any record of decision. So a good practice to get into is to have a good meeting minute template that has all of this required information set out already. And with respect to the names of those present, it is important that you note when and who leaves the meeting or returns to the meeting during the course of the meeting itself. Minutes of a closed meeting must be kept. However, there is a restriction on the information that can be disclosed to the public. So you'll take minutes of a closed meeting like you would a regular public meeting, but they must be redacted to include only the date of the meeting, names of those present, and the type of matter discussed when providing the minutes to the public. So you typically, as council, would approve the minutes of a meeting at the next meeting of council, and the minutes of the regular council meetings must be signed by the mayor and the CAO, and this is set out within the MGA. And finally, we have a template for council meeting minutes that you may wish to use for your own purposes, or you may already have a template that works for you. But as noted, you want to have a space to track the date and time, who was present, what resolutions were made, including the mover, the seconder, and the votes for and against. And then having that signature line at the end of the meeting minutes for the mayor and the CAO to sign off when the minutes are approved by council. Again, make sure you're using a template that works for you and makes it really easy to accurately capture all the discussions and decisions made, because it is your responsibility as the CAO to make sure that decisions are documented correctly and that you take the meeting minutes and store them appropriately within the municipal records.